Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and I am your host. And joining me, as always, is my go-to podcast compadre, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how you doing this week, my friend?
Jimmy, I'm doing excelente.
Indubitably. I was going to say, excelente muy caliente.
Indubitably. I'm doing very good. I'm excited to knock out another excelente podcast.
Yes.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Looking good, pal. You've been working out?
Oh, I'm trying.
Look strapped.
I'm trying a little bit. Let me just say this one thing. Somebody call a veterinarian because these pythons are sick. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just kidding.
Looks like they swallowed a couple pigs, you know what I'm saying?
Actually, you look much burlier than I do. I wasn't even trying. Like, these, if I flex, it's just gonna flex the opposite way, and it's gonna be very sad.
I've been known to stretch out the stitching on a couple shirts, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, it's mostly because of this shirt. It makes me look like I go to the gym more often than maybe I do. So, if you just want to go pick up one of those, that'd be great. Thank you, everybody. That's a shameless promotion.
Critical reviews shirts, they'll make your physique just do a 180, baby.
Just a 180, unless you're really.
Or if you're already there, it'll just improve them.
I'll say that, or if you're super ripped, it might make you look like you're not. I don't know. The 180, it's a tricky, fickle thing.
The stitch quality on those seams is second to none, really.
I'd say it's seamless.
Indubitably.
I'm sorry. I just feel like one day some guy, you're gonna get pulled over. The officer will be like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Indubitably. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that, officer. I mean, no.
I've been saying it at work now. That's how bad it's gotten.
Like, Joe, do you have that report for me? And you're like, indubitably.
Indubitably.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome. Of course, we do a 2-minute intro. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We love talking about everything in entertainment. And this week we've got a few things to go over. I just want to go over the news really quickly, and then we're going to jump into some Disney Plus stuff. We're going to save some more like full Mandalorian thoughts, and then Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order comes out on Friday, so I'll be talking about that next week. So it's a whole flipping thing.
Once we actually get into them, it's seen some, right?
Yeah. Also, with the nice thing about the Mandalorian, and nice but kind of tricky thing. So Disney's releasing these things 1 week at a time, which is kind of fun because you have something fun to look forward to, but at the same time it allows them to get longer subscriptions because people can't, unless you wait for the show to end.
You can't just binge it in a weekend free trial and be
which
done.
I think is good too, because think about a movie being 2 hours long and you watch that whole thing and it's done, but this is movie quality, and if it's 10 hours worth and you watch it all in a day, it's kind of just like, well, just months and months and weeks of work, and you're like, yeah, I watched it the other day and it was fine, and like they want to spread it out, which I think is cool. I'm interested. I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, let's get right to the news. Joe, we got so much news, baby. It's so crazy. The first thing I want to talk about, it's not a big deal, but Witcher already got picked up for season 2 on Netflix, which I joked about with Joe before we started here, saying that means they're going to cancel it for season 3 because Netflix is like one season, 2 seasons.
There'll be like a couple episodes, like they'll release season 1, they'll already be starting the filming for season 3, and they can't just stop it midway through. They're going to do it, and then they're going to realize once season 2 is released, man, the numbers just aren't up high enough. Next thing you know, they've got season 3 done. It's like, okay, well, here's season 3 because, we got it. Why not put it out there? But, yeah, it's canceled now. So.
Yeah, I feel
like a Jessica Jones deal.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's what they're hoping for with Witcher is kind of like with Stranger Things, where people might cancel their subscription for a while, but then when a new season comes back up, it'll uptick. So if they can get 3 or 4 of these things throughout the year, kind of Disney style with movies, is that every time, they just want people to be year round because they're like, oh, I want to cancel, but this next Witcher season 2 is coming out, I got to get ready for that. And then Stranger Things season 5. Or
what really gets people, like the Netflix, what do they call them? The Netflix movies, there's a term they use.
Series? The Netflix originals?
Netflix original.
Yeah.
Those are a draw, but they're not as much of a draw as like a series or a TV series. With subscription-based things like that, people like the binge series that go on for a long time because it takes time and, it's something to chill with after a long work day, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Movies are fine and all, but something like Disney Plus. Am I jumping the gun here?
No, it's fine. No, that's okay.
And it's something like Disney Plus, if it's all just movies, I feel like people are like, well, I've seen all these. I'd like to get it for the free trial. I'm going to watch as many as I can. Maybe I'll pay for a couple weeks or another month or two. Okay, I've kind of rewatched all the movies that I wanted to rewatch or that I feel are worthwhile. What's left for me? Well, hopefully, Mandalorian, it's a series, right?
Yep.
And hopefully they'll have some more on there, be coming out with some more. I know they have access to all the ABC stuff, right?
I'm not sure if they do yet, if it's still on Hulu, but I will say this. I forgot that they have this on there. I saw Disney Plus tweet this out, but Gargoyles, the old show, is on there. So they have old TV series. And I was watching it. That has the greatest theme song for an animated film besides maybe Pokemon ever. I know people out there, they're like, it's Batman, or they might be like, it's X-Men, but no, the Gargoyles theme, I listened to it maybe 6 times today because of the show, and it was like, skip intro, and I'm like, never skip the intro. I'm like, go again. I was like,
What's funny is I used to watch that when I was younger quite a bit. I don't know what it was that was so appealing, but
dude, you gotta give it another shot. It is good, dude, and they say some pretty bad stuff. There was, in the first episode or 2 alone, there was blood and the word hell was used. Or is that in the 3rd episode? I was like, what? I was like, what? I loved it, man. When's the live action?
As long as I feel like those series are a big draw. People like the binge series, like Friends on Netflix. People are just like boom, 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 stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I hope they have enough of that in there to make it worthwhile. I'm gonna try the free trial when The Mandalorian comes out this weekend, and maybe dabble in it. Maybe Star Wars will get me. Maybe they'll hook me in. Who knows?
I'll talk to you about it later in the show because I think you will actually really like it. Yeah. And I wonder too, Joe, here's my thought on the originals thing. So like Stranger Things does like 8 or 10 episodes or whatever. I wonder if something like Disney Plus, because they're going to stretch it out over time, if instead of doing a 10 episode series, if like say The Mandalorian does super well, and I think it already has in a sense, if they say, hey, actually, we're going to do a full treatment, we'll do like 22 episodes or whatever, and it's going to be over like, months and months and months. And so basically Disney's like, hey, we got you in a sense, because like, where else are you going to watch this? And it's going to be like TV again, but you're just paying for this streaming service. I wouldn't be surprised to see that.
I feel like things of that nature that have a budget like that associated with them, they don't do that many. Not that just stop out your flame or anything, but I just feel like when that much budget is into something, it's almost movie quality. I feel like they don't do quite as many episodes because there's so much work and behind the curtain stuff that goes into making these. So I doubt that we'll ever see that, but if it does well enough, it will be like a Game of Thrones type thing. You'll get 8 seasons of high quality episodes out of it and a great story, but time will tell. Back to the Witcher thing too. I mean, I honestly, we joke about they'll probably cancel the 2nd season or whatever, and we'll just get that and that'll be that. But I have high hopes for it. I think it could generate quite the draw. I think it's got the right vibe to it that people enjoy it, and you don't have to even know what The Witcher is.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things too, is looking at this, that they're drawing from the books, and there are people who are fans of the games, such as myself, that are kind of be drawn to it, but there are also still those kind of Game of Thrones fans who I think not only are looking for something to fill that void, but also are kind of bitter and sad and angry, and they kind of want like the new fantasy thing to kind of pull them out.
With a similar vibe to not fill that void, but scratch that itch.
Scratch that itch.
I don't know that it's quite enough to fill the void per se. I understand why you said it, but I don't know if anything can ever fill that void.
Yeah, which side note on those, I think we were talking about this either last week or the week before, but like those directors, the more I've heard about like this kind of thing with these 2 guys, it's like Weiss and Beinhoff or something like that. The 2 guys, the showrunners, there's like the kind of the going around that they were let go a long time ago for this. For this reason, because Game of Thrones didn't end super well, and they could finally talk about it now. And I was watching this video, and it was by Mr. Sunday Movies. Everybody should check him out. He talked about all the directors that have been let go from Star Wars projects, and we've talked about this on the show too. We lost the guys who did the Lego movie and then went to do Into the Spider-Verse, who were doing Han Solo or Solo, Star Wars story, and then Ron Howard had to come in and like kind of like reshoot the whole movie. And a similar thing kind of happened with Rogue One with Gareth Edwards, did a bunch of it, but then they brought in another guy to come and like fix all the problems that were in that. It's crazy like how that stuff works, but at least with Jon Favreau, the guy who's done Iron Man, did Jungle Book, did Lion King, and now is doing The Mandalorian, This guy, I feel like they trust him a lot, and he gets it. Like,
Clearly,
after
if they allow
watching
you
this,
to do the Lion King,
yeah,
you're okay.
I feel like Jungle Book. They're like, all right, if you can do Jungle Book, if you pull that off, we'll let you do Lion King. But letting him have that one, he's already kind of proven himself, and that guy is. Man, he's talented. I really feel it in all of his stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I gotta say I'm a fan. But like I said, we'll talk about Mandalorian later. Which, by the way, I did want to talk about this. Another kind of news blip. Disney Plus surpasses like 10 million subscribers already. That's a lot. Apparently, people were having issues with it day one. I didn't. I was looking for like a preload on Xbox because I've got on my Xbox One, and it's worked honestly just fine for the most part. And I was watching Beauty and the Beast the other day, and I left it and I came back to it. And I thought I had to restart it, but no, it put me right back where I was supposed to be. And I was like, okay. So it's pretty much, yeah, I guess we can jump into that a little bit, kind of my experience with it, because that's kind of the biggest news of this week. It feels very much like the menu is very Netflix. You know, you go to the left, at least on Xbox, and brings up like the search menu, kind of goes through the movies.
It works.
Yeah, movies, series, originals. And I kind of went through what I would consider to be some of the bigger original things that they have to start off with. Now, I think some people will, obviously, The Mandalorian is like the main one, but there are a few other things on there that I want to touch on briefly, if I may. But the question is, Joe, where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start with Mandalorian, or do you want me to start with something else?
Start with it.
Okay. I think... It might be unfair of me to say it, because I haven't seen the rest of it. But I'll tell you this right now, Joe. Not only is this the most competent bounty hunter we've kind of seen so far in the movies, which isn't saying too much because some of the bounty hunters, like, people loved.
Pause.
Yeah.
They've already released it? I thought it was releasing this weekend.
Oh, no. She's out in the wild, baby. It's out.
Oh, okay.
It's out now. Which I'm sorry. I was like, I don't know if Joe will want to watch this right away, so maybe I was like, he'll see it this weekend, I'm sure. But it's out. I watched it, and I loved the first episode. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. And for PG, there's plenty of violence, and I was really excited about that. I was like, this is pretty
bounty hunting,
pretty good.
or should be
Bounty hunting. And I think even as not a huge Star Wars fan, Joe, I think you'll really love it. There's an edge to this film, kind of one like Rogue One had, where it's got that. And this one takes place after Return of the Jedi, like 6 years or so after that. So that's after the fall of the Empire and Vader's gone and all that. But it still has that kind of grimy grittiness to it. But it is much more of like a Western, like we thought, Joe. It is very like he's kind of by himself, doesn't talk a lot, is kind of a scary person, and is like willing to kill people pretty quickly, but wants to make money.
Like under the helmet?
No, but it's Pedro Pascal, so we know who he looks like, you know. He doesn't take it off, though. So,
What do I know him from?
You know, from Game of Thrones, he got killed by the mountain, maybe?
Yeah!
Is that what it is?
The eye thing.
I'm gonna know more about Game of Thrones before I ever watch it, and then when I do, I'll be like, oh yeah, he's gonna die here. But well, that's because you guys keep telling me spoilers. Anyway, let's see. But yeah, the budget. You could taste the budget. It tastes so good. It's like, and I will say this too. I'm flipping the spoiler switch already because it's only 40 minutes, so you should go watch it by now. But Taika Waititi, someone that I think is funny, but has frustrated me in the past because he took Thor Ragnarok, and it's a very funny movie. He's the voice of Korg, the rock guy in that movie. He's from New Zealand, so you can tell his accent, and it's just all kind of funny jokes, whatever. He plays the voice does the voice for one of these bounty hunting droids. And he plays it really straightforward, very deadpan, and it works really well. And I was so worried I was going to be like a droid that just like was quipping and joking. No, this droid is like all about business. And if something goes wrong, he's like, I'm going to self-terminate. And he like pulls out like a thermal detonator like in his chest. And the Mandalorian's like, no, don't blow yourself up. Like, I need you. And he shoots kind of like that movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale, where he kind of shoots like this. He kind of shoots all like perfectly. So the droid's got two guns, and if you could imagine a droid that could swivel around without having to like move its like legs and its head, it's just shooting in all these directions at the same time. So it's actually like really scary to watch it work, but at the same time it's really captivating. You're like, this guy's killing like everybody. And it's a really, really good action sequence at the end of that first episode, but throughout it's pretty interesting, and they do a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a bounty being taken care of in the beginning. There's this crazy like underwater ice worm whale thing that they have to deal with. There's like shootouts and stuff. There are bad guys like from the Empire that are still around. There's a lot going on here. And Carl Weathers, who was in famously, I think people know him
from the Empire still around.
Still around, yeah, they're still around. There's like I don't know what his name was, I forget it, but he had some stormtrooper kind of bodyguards. But Carl Weathers, who I think was in Happy Gilmore, but he's also in the beginning of Terminator. He's kind of like the guy who gives out the bounties, and he's an interesting guy too. Like I want to know more about like his crew, and I want to know more about the guild of Mandalorians who actually go out. They're all wearing helmets in this guild. Like he goes and sees them at one point, and all are wearing helmets, and it's just like, yes, we're all wearing them. So the question is, I don't know if they're actually all Mandalorians or people just got that armor, but it's really interesting. It's cool to see that culture, and I am stoked for the next one. So I think you'll get a kick out of it, Joe, no matter what. I think you'll if you give it a shot, and I think most people by now who are actually listening to this probably have watched it. It's only 40 minutes. Give it a shot, Ski. And if you're kind of on the fence about it, maybe wait a few weeks and then get Disney Plus, and then you can watch 2 or 3 or 4 episodes of this, and then you can decide.
So it's like per week they release an episode.
Yeah, and that's why I said, like, for Disney, I could see them ballooning the budget and then being like, all right, so we gave you $150 million for 10 episodes. We're going to give you $200 million for, 12 episodes or 15 or whatever it is, just so we can stretch it out a little bit longer so people keep the subscription for, 5 months or 4 months or whatever it's going to be. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see that. But anyway, right now, The Mandalorian, it is just like aces in my book. But again, this is the first episode. It could take a turn. I don't really want to review it until it's fully done. And I know a lot of people out there are actually excited about it because, like, Netflix, what they'll do is like, we dropped Daredevil season 3, and people are like, crap, I have to binge watch like freaking 13 episodes of Daredevil, and then in 2 days I have to have a review out for it. So this is kind of nice. Gives you more time to kind of build and like actually have a better feeling and take in the show more, because this way I'm going to remember stuff. Also, Nick Nolte's in this, and I picked out his voice, and the character he plays is really good. And the character even has like a catchphrase built in. It's wonderful. It's very good. And a lot of practical effects. They do the CG, ship stuff when they have to, but for the most part, most all of it's pretty practical, or seems that way. So they did a really good job, like, giving it that feel. And man, I could just watch this guy walk in alleys, which you do a lot, but like his costume and everything, it looks so good. Like you stare at it and it's just like, this is so pretty. Like this is so well done. Like it's just shiny and sharp and gritty, and it's good. It's good. Yeah, so that's Mandalorian talk for you guys for a little bit. Joe, how do you feel now that I've talked about that? Is it piqued your curiosity a little bit more?
It has. It has. I won't lie. His costume is cool. Kind of, what is it, Boba Fett-ish?
Yeah. Yep. Basically, yeah. Which Boba Fett had Mandalorian armor, but he wasn't really a Mandalorian. It's very confusing. Don't worry about it. But yes, bounty hunting kind of. Not that all bounty hunters look like that. It's a whole.
Yeah. Either way, it's compelling. It's interesting. I think it has a slightly different vibe than, say, an actual Star Wars movie.
Yeah, he's not, at least so far, he's not like the chosen one or anything. He's just like a guy trying to make money, and he will kill people, and he'll chop someone in a door if he has to, which there wasn't any blood, and they didn't really make a noise that there was blood, so maybe he killed someone who didn't have blood, but there was that moment from the trailer.
Anything about lightsabers?
No, not yet, and thankfully, most of the stuff we saw in those teaser trailers was in episode 1. Which I was like, whoa, like most of it was in there. I was like, wait, what? This is episode 1? I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I felt like they came out swinging, and they kind of have to with this, because not only does it have to sell people on The Mandalorian, but it also has to sell people on this streaming service. So they're like, okay, this is worth it. Yeah, which is, it's cool. That's really cool. And there are 2 other things I want to kind of talk about briefly here. I did watch, and it's for my friend Christine, aka Ivy Winter. You should check out her channel, Ivy Winter. It's over Ivy Winter YT on Twitter, I think, but she's on YouTube. She does Disney, talks about Disney stuff. But I watched, it's a Nat Geo or National Geographic show, The World According to Jeff Goldblum. And Joe, I think you'd like this first episode. Basically, he goes around and he picks a topic, or they pick a topic for him, and he kind of looks into all the facets of it. So this one was about sneakers. And he talked to, like, he went to SneakerCon, and he was talking about, like, what is it that people are really interested in about these, and then he went to play like on a basketball court that was just like a pickup game, but it was like with WNBA stars and other like professionals and other people who were just like street ball players, and so he was playing with them, and then he went to Adidas, and they actually made a shoe for. Oh, sorry, they checked out how his like what would be a perfect shoe for him, but then he had this guy called the shoe surgeon who's made shoes for like LeBron James and like all these other people, and he made a specific pair just for Jeff Goldblum because that's what this guy does. He's like a super like elite, like just I make like one pair at a time. Here you go. They showed off a pair of like LeBron James ones. They're like gold crocodile, and he'll make them for like upwards of $100,000 for one pair of sneakers. But yeah, it was interesting, and Jeff Goldblum obviously has like his little weird mannerisms and kind of goes around and talks to people in a funny way. And I'm not the biggest, like I'm not against him by any stretch. I just keep thinking back to just like life finds a way. Like I just keep going back to that.
You'll never see past the character he plays.
I'm sorry, no, I want to. Like I know he's a different guy than Ian Malcolm, but this what was it the shoe surgeon or whatever is like, were dinosaurs real? And Jeff Goldblum like looks at him, he's like, what? And the guy says like, yeah, there's people out there who believe that, or like the Earth's flat. And Jeff Goldblum's like, how can I say this without being mean? He's like, those people are incorrect. And I was like, oh, that's so funny because other people just talk to him about this all the time, and he's like, you know, it was a movie about dinosaurs. Anyway. So yeah, it was a quirky show, but I think especially if you kind of like sneakers a little bit, Joe, you'd appreciate like this.
I do.
And I think the next one might be ice cream. I didn't look at the next one. I just saw a thumbnail of him eating ice cream on a beach.
I mean, ice cream's good and all, but
I love ice cream. But again, I only watched it because my friend was like, she loves them, so I'm like, I'll check it out. But the other one,
that on, though?
That Disney Plus, yeah, that's The World According to Jeff Goldblum, and it's not. I thought it was gonna be more of like him sitting in a chair and them asking him like philosophical questions where he'd be like, I think this or this or this, but it wasn't
How
that.
do I find an apartment?
He also interviewed a YouTuber who was a famous like shoe unboxer, and that's what the guy does. And he like went on his show and he talked to him, and they were talking about the how dopamine levels affect us, and that we experience the highest dopamine like for an unboxing video right before they unbox it, but after you see what's in it, it's not the same. So like the anticipation, the high of it is what that guy basically like has his channel based around. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. It's a little scientific. Last thing.
You ever get your dopamine kick on Critical Review?
Yeah, baby. Just like, watch it. Just like, will he reveal his face? Yeah, I did. The last one I watched, which I highly recommend watching, Joe, I don't know how much you'd actually enjoy this or not. It's a series coming out called The Imagineering Story, and it was an hour long, and I think they're going to kind of do it week by week for I don't know how many episodes it's going to be, but this first episode, and they're going to kind of get into Imagineering. So for people who don't know what that is, it's like Imagination engineers, or Imagineers for the Walt Disney Corporation, which are the people behind all the theme parks and the rides, and they're basically like the creatives mixed in with the people and the technical know-how to make an animatronic, make a ride, make a land, make everything they need to. And this first one was kind of like the very beginning, the impetus of it all, and talking about Walt and how he built up to this, and not only just like the movies and stuff, but then also how it got into pulling the people from those movies and having them work on the rides, and all these interesting, eclectic individuals who you probably would never hire under any sort of regular business circumstance, but that Walt was like, yeah, you're gonna come work for me because like he's like, there's one person that was like an animator on one of his films. He's like, yeah, you're gonna come work at Disneyland and you're gonna like it. And the guy was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, you're coming. He's like, well, no, like it's like, come on, let's go. So it's really interesting, and it was just fascinating because they just kind of went from thing to thing to thing. It's narrated by Angela Bassett, so that's pretty cool too. But they actually talked to some of these people who are still around, and obviously they're pretty old now, but listening to them talk about their interactions with Walt and hearing that, like, not that he was ever a bad guy necessarily, but it's talking, like, one of the guys was the like the park manager for Disneyland, and he said he used to butt heads with Walt all the time, and they kind of tell very candid stories about the guy, and it was like, this is really interesting. And at the end, they kind of talked about like the day that he passed away, and watching these people get legitimately choked up still, like 2019 choked up. It was like, like it was really hard to watch. It was like, oh, but it was so cool because you could tell that like these were people that were willing to like live and die for this guy who everybody thought was just insane back in the day. Like, he took out, I didn't know this, he took out a life insurance policy against himself to, like, help pay off for more Disneyland stuff. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, could you just imagine that? The guy's, like 52 or something at the time, and he's like, all right, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket, baby. And like he went for it. It's just like, oh my gosh, but he didn't go alone. So that's a really cool thing. And just, man, it's fascinating. It's truly fascinating. And that's the first episode. So I'm guessing subsequent ones are going to be about maybe specific attractions or kind of like where they're at today or whatever else. I think they're planning on doing it.
My short time on this earth, experiences led me to believe that people that generate or create like business empires or successful businesses are typically kind of hard-hitting, driven people, almost type A personalities that, you know, don't take no shit but dish it, kind of a deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Ruthless in some aspects, but still, sometimes people are very hard line that way. Like I've seen business owners that are that way, or some that are that way, but also very good to people at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and it sounds like that's the case for him based on what you just said. But it doesn't surprise me that they talk about how he was, you know, like he would butt heads with the park manager and all that, and shows that it was kind of his way or the highway. But you know, that's kind of how people like that are. That sounds interesting. I'll have to give it a watch.
Yeah, and one other thing that I thought was really fascinating is that they're talking about opening day for Disneyland, and he was just like a few weeks out or something, and he like looked around and he's like, I don't think people are going to pay even 15 cents to come here. I'm really scared about this. And it's just like, it's so crazy. Like where it is now, obviously. But back then, I mean, he didn't know. He didn't know. And then they showed the opening day crowds. And they did have problems that first opening day. They talk about all that. And it's stuff I've heard before. And it's funny because like this first episode felt like a lot of other YouTube channel videos where they're like showing behind the scenes stuff like, oh, there's a basketball hoop in the Matterhorn. It's like, oh, like it's up there, but it's not a full court and all these things. But it was just so cool and seeing all this historical footage that they took during that time and all these old photos where you're just like, wow, these people were just they're just really cool. And he also talked, one of my favorite things too is he was very playful, and so he had this like undescript warehouse, or a couple of them, where he put all of these audio animatronics and all this stuff where he would come to play. And he would basically have his office like for WED Enterprises and all this stuff for the movies and things. And that was WED, Walter Elias Disney. WED, you see that? And then, but he would go to this like work on these things, and they're like, hey, well, why don't you get like an office over here in these like, you know, these warehouses? And he's like, no, this is not where I come to work. It's where I come to play. I just like, you just walk around to all these different things that everybody was working on, like Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, like Elephants for the Jungle Cruise, like all these things. Just be like, oh, man, here's how I do this, and maybe if we did this. And it's fascinating, simply fascinating. Like this guy, man, oh, I can't imagine. And they also talked about how he kind of hid his illness from everybody, and nobody really knew until it was kind of too late. And it's like, I just imagine him just like looking at his empire he's built, and he's like, just got to keep working, just keep going. Yeah, so yeah, and they have some audio recordings of him talking about like how this stuff has to go on after he dies and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't even imagine being in a meeting like that where he's like, yep, this is what we're doing. So anyway, fascinating watch. The Imagineering story, I think that might be like number 2, maybe even, I don't know, it's hard because like The Mandalorian's so cool, but this was just so like it's just so much information. They just go boom, 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 boom. There's a lot in there for Disney fans such as myself, but also, Joe, for someone like you who might not know as much. Yeah, newcomer, you'd still get an appreciation for what they're trying to go for. And the last thing I'll say about this too, and I don't know if they're going to put this on there, maybe it is on there too, but basically what they did a while ago to finance some of these things, it's so smart. They have 4 attractions at the World's Fair, and basically you would get sponsored by your pavilion would get sponsored by a big company like Ford. Let's say Ford. They had Ford like Magic Skyway, and you got to sit in a Mustang, Joe, which I know you'd like. You sit in an old Mustang, and they drive around. And so to kind of take that idea, what Disney would do, he's like, okay, for 1964 World's Fair, we're going to do this. It was that, Small World, and there was 2 other ones I can't think of off the top of my head. I'm so sorry, everybody. But he basically took those. He's like, all right, we'll use it for the World's Fair for however long they need it, and then we're going to take them to Disneyland when they're done, and they'll be completed, and someone else will have paid for them. And people talked about how like savvy Disney was to do that, where he's like, yeah, okay, so this person's going to pay me to basically get a ton of self-promotion and build this thing for me, with their name on it. Okay, and then when that's done, I'm just gonna be like, well, taking this home, like, you know, he's just like, and it just made his park stronger, which is so intelligent. And then basically to help finance Disneyland Disneyland and then into Disney World, talking about like how he had his what was like Walt Disney Presents, and it would be like Wonderful World of Color eventually, but he would just go through, it was almost like Patreon videos or Kickstarter, and he'd just show people, he's like, yeah guys, this is what we're thinking, and this is what an audio animatronic is, here's a little parrot, and this is how it works, and we're gonna have it in the parks. Like, it was just so like open door policy, like showing the nation kind of what to expect. And I love how before his time he was, because now that's what everybody's doing. They're like, all right, here's a proof of concept over time, please give me money for it. Like this, he was doing that way back in the day, like just kind of every week, just he's like, yep, here's the model scale for Disneyland, and here's kind of what we're thinking here and here and here. It's just like, it's brilliant, it's flipping brilliant. But yeah,
that sounds super interesting.
And there's so many schematics and things they show too. It's just like, oh man, like it's just darn fascinating. So yeah, check that one out. Again, for the Disney fanatics, it's obviously a must watch, and there's a lot of repeated information that you might know, but at the same time there's so much in there that you might not have, and there's just such an emotional hit at the end of it where it's just like, oh god, just like watching these people who are in their 80s just like start to choke up. You're like, nope, don't you start. If you start, I'm gonna start. It's like, please cut the camera. Cut it now. So I'm excited to see that. I think it's a series continue, because I think that's at episode 1, and I really want to see more of that. And I forget when it's coming out, but it's called One Day, and they basically are going to show an operational day for multiple points of view throughout all of the parks. They just picked one day, and they're like everybody from like the janitor all the way up to like, you know, the park manager, just kind of like different roles throughout all of the parks around the world. And I think that is it's incredibly fascinating, right? Where it's like, like, and just to get a day in the life kind of little snippet.
I've seen the things too on like, I don't know if it's, what channel would that be on, Discovery or TLC? I don't know. It's where they go behind the scenes of like preparation for Christmas holiday season.
Yes. Yep. And my mom, who was just down there, she said that there was one night, and they didn't do it fully, but that they took down a lot of the Halloween stuff and put up a lot of the Christmas stuff, and she was excited because she loves the Christmas stuff. But but that
one day transition from Halloween to November 1st would like, it would be shocking to me to like go from that haunted and spooky to all of a sudden Christmas cheer. I'm like, whoa, shocking my system. I can't take it.
Yeah, I think what they do is they do the weekend after Halloween now, because they went to the Halloween party on like November 1st or 2nd, which I know, how dare they go on not Halloween, but I think it was like a day or two after that they kind of were like, they took away the orange and the yellow and the red, and they put up the green and the red and the tinsel and all that stuff. It's just like, I watched that one, the Halloween one and the Christmas one. And the Christmas one, them just talking about their poinsettia situation, is they have like these greenhouses and stuff, and it's just like, oh my gosh,
the
like
warehouse that stores all the decorations.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just like, but they can do it, and they do it every year. Those people, they probably, hopefully they get paid decently, I hope, anyway. Yeah, I just want to talk. That's basically Disney Plus for me right now. That's most of the original stuff. There is a few things I haven't checked out. There's a show called Encore, which is starring Kristen Bell, and she basically takes a group of individuals who were in a High School Musical together and brings them back to perform that musical or another musical again. I was like, okay, that's novel, to not necessarily my cup of tea. They also have like High School Musical the series, which is going to be on there too. And
you know where this subscription service is going to really hit home is for families with kids.
Yeah, I think so too, but that's for now.
Take your iPad, watch some Disflix and chill, huh?
Yeah, that's true. The other one I watched was kind of like an Impractical Jokers. It was like they called it, was it Pixar in real life, and this first one was like Inside Out inspired. So they put this big controller panel in New York, and you could make people happy, sad, angry, or whatever, but they were just actors. So they would have like two people come out, and you could like hit a button, and the actors would just have to improv, and then they would just do stuff. So they're just random people doing it. And that was just the first episode. I think the next one's going to be like a little Wall-E drone in real life, just going around trying to collect garbage and stuff. And it's going to be things like that, or where like I heard one of the, it's like Dash from The Incredibles. He's super fast, and he'll like a little kid will come up to a person dressed like Dash and be like, "Hey, sir, can you time me? Can you time me?" And the guy's like, "All right, sure. I'm gonna run around the block." So he goes around he's gonna run around the corner, but then another little boy runs out around the other corner that's looks just like him, and just like
that's great.
I was like, that's kind of a fun like little like a very nice prank show, like a night, or not even pranks. It's just like, this is kind of fun.
Like tripping people up.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's fun. So I watched that first. They only just have one episode, so remember that too for the original stuff on here. Most all of it is just the one episode. They're not going to do it like Netflix, where it's like, all right, here's all 10 episodes. Like it's going to be week after week. So the more that time goes by, the more value there'll be in this, and they'll probably increase the price accordingly. So
you're telling everybody to wait a little while.
If you're not sure, I would wait before you do that 7-day free trial. I'm not sure how long that's going on for, but right now you can just do the base to try it out, and I think it's $6.99 right now.
Like a free trial is pretty standard. Hulu does it, Netflix does it. They all seem to do it. So
yeah,
I would
exactly.
doubt if they would go away.
Yeah,
don't take my word for it.
I won't, but I have. Okay, I'm taking your word for it right now, baby. But yeah,
to the listeners, Jimmy, they value my opinion.
They do. And then I guess, but for me right now, I guess the question for a lot of people, is it worth it? Obviously, I don't want to say it's up to you. For me, I got to watch that. So if I watched 40 minutes worth, it's going to be a month. So it's going to be 3 or 4 episodes at least. So that'll be like more than a movie price. It's going to be, The Mandalorian alone is going to be worth the price for admission, because it's that kind of quality. But these other things in here too, along with the backlog. I mean, I watched Beauty and the Beast, like I was talking about. I was watch Gargoyles. Like, there's so much in there that's just fun to just be like, and it's up. Like,
so compare it to Netflix. Is it bang for your buck, Netflix level?
It doesn't have the TV shows like Netflix does, so it's not as bingeable yet, unless you're going back to like DuckTales or something like that, where it's like an old show that you specifically search out. I think one thing they got to figure out too with the menu setup is that it should have better recommendations for like a full TV series like that, because there's a lot in here that you can't see right off the bat. So you got to kind of go looking for it. Like, I forgot Gargoyles was on there, and I saw them tweet about it. And I was like, oh crap, Gargoyles is on there. So like I went and I hunted it down and I found it, but it was kind of like I had to go search for it for a while, and I was like, okay, there it is. So that's why I would recommend going in kind of with a plan, and maybe write down a few of your favorite old Disney shows and movies, so that way you can be like, all right, cool, I'm going after these ones first, and then, on to the next. So yeah, but I dig it. I really dig it so far, and I just want there to be more. I'm just like, it's like Netflix, though, where I kind of inadvertently check back in on it. It's like, no, there's still only one episode of The Mandalorian. I'm like, there could be 2, or like the Imagineering story. I'm like, I just want more of this. Like, it was just so flippin' fascinating. So, and I was watching it, like my mom drop in, and she's like watching it too, and she's just like, and she knows the songs and things. So when they're playing this music, it's just like, yep. So if you like the Disney parks at all, it's just like a shot of that sweet morphine, baby. It's just like, oh, here we go, yeah.
Pretty good stuff.
Joe knows all about it. But yeah, there's my little Disney Plus thing, and I'll talk about it more next week. Once I get a second week in of it to kind of feel it out. But I'm really excited about that, and catching up on stuff like Star Wars Rebels, which I kind of neglected to do a while ago. So yeah, there we go. But in honor of The Mandalorian and Disney Plus and stuff this week, I did put out this question on Twitter, and Joe and I might come up with a few other ones ourselves. But I want to talk about if Joe and I were just humble, noble, maybe a little bit outlawish bounty hunters, who would we go after on a fictional level, and what would we need to actually bring them in? And we had a few interesting write-ins, and one character that Joe and I are not familiar with at all, so we had to look up, and I think you're going to get a kick out of this. So let's just go over to the Twitter machine, Joe. I'll start with the one that I had no idea about. So the Outer West, which again, Wes, thank you, our newest patron. He says, my suggestion is it Jiren from Dragon Ball Super? Jiren? Might be Jiren. I think it's Jiren with a J, because we looked him up, because Jiren or Gyros is like a dragon guy. Jiren, for people who don't know him, he's an alien-like guy, and, just for fun, I wanted to look up if he has a weakness, and this is what it says on the dragonball.fandom.com/wiki/Jiren. It says, as they kind of recount Jiren, Goku in this moment finally saw Jiren's weakness. When unguarded, Jiren takes considerable damage from hits, more than he usually should. So his weakness is if he's unguarded, he might take a little more damage. But remember, this is a Dragon Ball character, so he, as Joe looked up, has we don't know how strong or how fast.
Power skills, immeasurable strength, immeasurable speed, immeasurable agility, immeasurable stamina, immeasurable durability, immeasurable endurance, immeasurable combat skills, key manipulation, oxygen independence. He doesn't need any of that shit.
Okay.
Berserk mode. He has a berserk mode, and
Good.
he has extreme analytical skills.
So that means I don't know. I was trying to find like a kryptonite situation, and I'm not sure if any. Yeah, and if we're regular people, I don't know what type of fictional weapon we would need to trap or get this guy to bring him in alive for a bounty.
I skip.
Skip? We're not taking that bounty. It's like a high bounty, and both Joe and I look at each other like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I don't want to do that. And that's fine. We're okay with it. Another one that got.
Here are some of his hobbies.
Oh.
Showing off his immense power because he's an asshole. Fighting powerful opponents because he likes to reign over people and show off.
Mm-hmm.
His goals are to win the tournament of power to resurrect his deceased master. You know what? If you turn yourself in, Mr. Jiren, we will resurrect your deceased master.
How are we going to do that?
He doesn't need to know that.
If we use the Book of the Dead from the Mummy, we could probably...
Yes, exactly. See, we got that.
Well, he's like his crippled, crazy-looking master's all dead and mummified and stuff. And we're like, we brought him back, though. Like, it's him. Like,
we just exhume his body from his grave and be like, here he is. We brought him back.
You're fine. You're totally fine.
Just grab the guy's arm and wave it at him.
Yeah. This one was a good one. This one comes in from Seblot90 on Twitter. Our buddy Seb, one of my Swedish snipers. I love you, Seb. He says, good question. I can imagine Master Chief would be quite hard. He said he's on a Halo audiobook spree at the moment. Joe, Master Chief.
Yeah, how do you bring him in?
How are we going to bring in the Chief?
I mean, he's not unbeatable. He's just a big Halo... what are the names?
Spartans.
Spartans.
He's very strong and very tall, and he's got good combat abilities. We're going to need some sweet weapons, like some sick tasers. Like lots of good tasers, maybe.
Yeah. You know, you got to bring him in alive, huh?
Yeah, I know. That's the hard part.
I would just hire a bunch of the, what are the enemies in Halo?
The Covenant?
Yep. I would just hire them.
Dude,
you know,
no.
I'll split this bounty with you. You bring him in.
They're all going to die. Have you not played those games? He kills like almost all of them.
I know, but you catch Master Chief unawares when he's fighting them. And
you should... Okay, wait. Would you dress up as one of the regular Marines? And you're like out on mission with him, and you're like, all right, sir, like looks like we're gonna have to fight some Covenant. And when he's like shooting at someone, you like try to go in the back.
Him in the neck or clunk him over the back of the head.
You take the helmet off. He's like, I want to see his face. I think if I could take one like weapon, fictional weapon with me, I'd probably take like this one. We could probably work on a lot of people, but like Mr. Freeze's cold gun might work well on him because he goes into like cryostasis a lot. So if you did hit him and turn him into a chunk of ice, might have a chance there. Maybe.
There we go. That's what we go for. Something like that. I mean, we just have to render him immobile. And I think going undercover as a standard Marine might be the best way to get it done, you know?
That's true. Yeah, would we be bounty hunters together? Would we would you be...
I mean, there's got to be a team involved here, otherwise we don't stand a chance.
That's true. Thank you. I totally agree. You can pilot the ship, though. And we can use carbonite. We can freeze them.
I'm a good driver most of the time.
And in space, it's hard to hit much because there's not much out there. Am I right?
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh God, a nickel, a floating nickel.
I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna next. This one comes in from Simon the Shark Man over on our Discord. Simon, we love you so much, Simon. Simon, you're great. He says the first one that came to mind was Kratos. I don't know why. Kratos, like God of War Kratos, the guy who basically yells and gets out of every situation that he's in. I don't know if you could bring him in it'd be so hard to bring him in alive because he would like he'd try to kill you so much. Like there would never be a moment where he's not trying to
kill.
Like he just wouldn't stop. I don't know how you'd try to bring him in. He would be so hard to bring in.
I mean, is there a way to render him immobile?
Yeah, there's like stuff we could use, like in the new one there's these
He's slightly god
vine things or something. I mean, yeah, he is god. These like kind of special godlike vine things we could probably use. We'd have to get our hands on those. I think somebody's gonna have to draw his fire with those chains and hope they get locked in a rock or something. Like he throws one really hard and he gets locked in a rock.
Yeah, I'll bait him to the rock and take one on the cheek.
I'll try to wrap him up. You'll take one of those on the cheek. I'll slap. Like, ooh.
Slap. Or it just shaves the side of my face off.
Yeah, that's...
Jimmy, get him!
And I'm already dead. He's got the other one in me. I'm like, maybe we can get him... If he starts to swing at both of us, if we run around him in a circle, he'll wrap the chains around himself. Where he's like, throws them both out, and he's like... Then he falls over, and then
none of his enemies have ever thought of that. We got him.
We got you, Kratos. We got you, baby. And guess what? We're gonna get your son too, because his son's always with him now. So we got Atreus. Oh my gosh, the kid's extra, baby. This one comes in from Missile Mage, and it's my absolute favorite one. I think they've maybe done a comic on it, or I want them to. Okay, so he was going through the motion. He was like, okay, Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX might be a little obscure, and said, we can't cheat by choosing someone undead, ? And they said, screw it, I'll go classic, Vader. I've thought about this. I thought about this a lot.
Oh.
If you wanted to bring Vader in, and I've wanted them to do, again, there's probably a comic out there on it. I would love there to be a movie about this, where there's like 5 or 6 people, and they're like, we're going to bring down Vader. It's the same idea of like Sinister Six to go get Spider-Man. And like they have this plan, where there's like, all right, 2 of you do this. It's like fighting Thanos. It's like 2 of you do this, 2 of you do this, and 1 of you does this. And we all have to do it perfectly. Because if for one moment, if one of us screws up, we're all going to die. And like, you know, you get that moment where they do capture him, right? And then like one person does one thing wrong, and then he like breaks free, and then it's just like, oh God, we're all going to die. Because I mean, like, it's Vader. So at that point, it turns from like an action movie to like a thriller horror movie where they're just trying to run away. But if I was going to capture old Vader, here's how you do it. More tasers. Okay, so if you can really mess up the breathing apparatus on Vader,
remove the helmet.
You got a shot, maybe. But again, we're gonna have to dress up as stormtroopers and try to sneak up on him, but he'll probably force sense that we're there and force choke us before we get the chance to do this.
But can he force choke like 5 people at the same time?
Yeah, he can actually do. I think so. He can do a lot, I think. But you're right. Maybe we haven't seen that in the movies so much. Maybe we should go after movie Vader. Like he kind of can only pick up one person at a time, kind of thing.
Yeah. And what happens if you ruin or disable the breathing apparatus? Like, boom, point blank, I shoot the breathing apparatus. He's all left up. He's like,
so the problem with that is that he can absorb blaster bolts. We've seen that in the movies into his hands. And even if you do that, he can like dark side power himself and keep himself sustained long enough. Again, this hasn't been in the movies as much as like the other stuff, but
sure.
He would be so hard to bring down. The problem is like the Force. Like the lightsaber is bad enough, right? But like the Force, that's the problem. Because like you shoot something at him, he's like that, and you're like, oh, like it's like you almost need to try to blow him up first. Like you need to be in a ship and try to blow him up when he's on the ground somewhere, and then maybe engage when he's like all messed up and he's like, ah. You're like, all right, tase him. And then put that boy on carbonite so fast, like you freeze Vader as quickly as you possibly can. Throw the lightsaber in a ditch, or like try to break it, like melt it, just get rid of it. Like just don't even keep it around, because the second he comes to, it's just gonna fly right to him through you. Like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Throw it in the volcano.
Yeah, throw it in a volcano. Yeah, I don't know who the easiest of those people to bring in would be. Maybe Master Chief?
Definitely Jiren.
yeah. Vader is bad. Jiren's like, we wouldn't even see the guy. Like he probably moves like a speedster. He'd be like a hand through my chest and be like, that sounds about right.
Well, we try.
We did try, yeah. I think that's kind of, and I was trying to think of other. I look up and obviously I see Ghost Rider right there. There's just no way. There's some people I'm just like, or like Superman. I think Superman and Jiren are kind of on that same level where unless you know their hyper big specific weakness, you're never gonna have a chance. Especially if it's a bad Superman, because he's not gonna sit there and try to like talk to you. Like you can get Superman with a kryptonite grenade the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even the second time apparently, but like that first time you can be like, hey man, like I'm a friend, and then you could just freaking jam a kryptonite shard in its chest, you know, like if you're you could get Soups, but like Jiren, man, that's not, I don't know, I'm sure there's a weakness, but send in more. I'd love to hear more of these bounties. That was kind of fun.
That was fun.
Joe, let's move in, but we're gonna bring these people in instead of killing them, but you know what we could kill a little time, baby, into this next segment of the show that I like to call, you like to call, we like to call.
We all like to call time killers.
That's right. It's the games we've been playing, the movies we've been viewing, the TV shows we've been watching. I already talked about pretty much all of mine. Joe, my friend, what have you been killing time with?
Lots of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I don't even think I talked about it last week. All right.
And?
I'm starting to like it more and more. Still on the Monster Hunter Iceborne kick.
Yeah. So
I gotta hit that. I gotta get my guiding land levels up. I need to fight the remaining monsters that I haven't seen yet. It's driving me nuts.
Full disclosure,
It's on my list for this weekend. I don't want to hear that you already made it there because you couldn't wait. I knew it would happen. I was thinking of it yesterday. I knew it.
So, what I did is I couldn't find anyone to do this with me, so I had to go alone and fight those two tempered crazy things by myself, and guess what happened after it? Nothing. So I feel like I still have to get to a certain rank after that, because they didn't give me another mission to do.
It's totally your guiding lands levels. Once you get the lands leveled up high enough, there are some monsters that you don't know about yet if you haven't cheated and looked online.
I haven't.
That appear.
No, I just did the next assigned quest, which was the tempered Glavenus and tempered Brachiodos by myself in 50 minutes, which I was able to do. And for some odd reason, Brachiodos was so much harder. Like, it was my second fight, and he carded me at least once or twice. I was like, whoa, like, but I took him. Nobody joined my fight. I felt so bad. I was like, I'm gonna get somebody for this, right? And just nobody showed up. So just me out there with my longsword, my Namiel longsword, and I was like, let's do this. And I went for him. I actually got Brachiodos' tail off, but I didn't get Glavenus's. I really tried.
The hard one to get.
And also, when I'm by myself, I spend too much time trying to grapple. I know that now. The Clutch Claw's too enticing. I'm like, Jimmy, you're on time limit here by yourself. You need to keep going. Like, because I was waiting. I figured I was going to kill, like, one of them, and then someone else was going to join, and, like, the damage of that other monster would go way up, and their health would go way up, and I was going to be like, I'm about to kill him. And it was just like, whoom. It was like, oh, the quest difficulty is switched to multiplayer. And I'd be like, no. Yeah, that game. It's too good. It's too good. Well, if that's the case, Joe, then we can move into community feedback.
And I was trying to think if I had any more time killers. And questions.
And questions. Timestamp, baby. Wow, that was the fastest we've ever done that, I think, Joe. Hooray for us, but hooray for school even more. That's what I would say. We kind of got into some of the community feedback responses, kind of the bounty hunting stuff, but we did get a question in from Missile Mage, and I thought it was really, really good. Because Missile Mage, thank you. You're always sending great questions.
Always on it.
Love you for it. Love you for it. This is on our Discord, by the way, so you guys, please, come to the Discord. If you guys need a link to the Discord, which, by the way, I still haven't gotten too many of those I have to check the things. I don't think I've gotten enough Game of Thrones comments on the last one. Last video, anyway. He says, I've been playing some Spider-Man on PS4, and it's got me thinking. Do you think Spider-Man has ever been in a better place? I'm not really a comic reader, but between the video game, the Marvel movies, and Into the Spider-Verse, it's hard to think of any comic book character ever being in as strong a position as Spider-Man is now. # Critical Podcast. Joe.
Yes, there I have my answer for that. Iron Man has always been and always will be in a stronger position than Spider-Man.
Wait, no.
Spider-Man is lucky.
Wait, but he hasn't always been. Iron Man before Robert Downey Jr. was not much of anything.
Did he even exist before Robert Downey Jr., cartoon-wise?
Yeah, and comic-wise.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe Spider-Man in that regard has always been a little more popular and resounding with particular audiences. But when it comes to like current day big screen type stuff, Spider-Man was poised really well. First time we had ever really seen a legit, well done Marvel comic book superhero movie, realism wise, with the Sam Raimi films.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tobey Maguire, excellent job. I think he played the character very well. It's a little different from what I imagined going from the animated series to that, but still, nonetheless, I remember those movies being a big deal when they came out.
Yeah. I I wonder too if, like, I think Missile Mage kind of makes a point about saying he's strong in multiple categories, because before Spider-Man kind of came out, back with like the Raimi stuff, obviously the TV show is there, and they had some games, but they weren't like, oh my gosh, these games. But
Yeah.
I guess nowadays he's strong overall in a way where before the show we talked about it, and you said it too right there at the Raimi trilogy. I just remember it felt like such an event. Like, Spider-Man movies still do super well now, they totally do, but when
Yeah.
that first one
But
came
so does
out,
any Marvel movie.
yeah, and like he was by himself. Like, Spidey was by himself in that time, and there wasn't like a shared universe. It was just him, and he kind of was like Batman. He was just kind of, I'm by myself, I'm doing my thing. But he is in a very strong place now. The question is, does Sony understand and appreciate that, and are they willing to keep playing ball with Marvel on this? Because I just don't want to keep every couple of years to be like, yeah, I don't want Sony every couple of years to be like, well, you know what, like, we're just gonna take him back, I think. And Marvel's like, please, come on, let's don't be stupid here. Like, we know what we're doing with this character in the movie sense, but in the game sense, like, Spider-Man for PS4 is such a good game. It's such an incredible game. But that year was so stacked with good games that people didn't even talk about it so much for the game of the year. It's like they talk about in the top 5, but they weren't like, oh, this is like. But any other year, I feel like Spider-Man would have been like, whoa, this is.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's in a strong position.
My overall take on it is, yeah, he's in a strong point, but I think you could argue that for almost anybody. I mean, think of like, you could argue it for Doctor Strange or Captain Marvel. I mean, I guess they don't have pre-existing big screen.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man has, but Spider-Man started with Sam Raimi. Average, really good film, decent performances, whatever. There was money to be made on him.
Mm-hmm.
Then Amazing Spider-Man, when they rebooted, boo, downward trend over the 3 movies they did with him.
Well, just 2.
I mean, yeah,
felt like 3.
Felt like 3, yeah. And then they come back here, but associated with Marvel, when Marvel is at the peak and doing really well, and everybody knows what they're going to get because it's good stuff, right? I think that has a lot to do with his position and how he's done well. Everybody likes that stuff. They know what they're going to get. It's proven, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's maybe not so much just the fact that he's Spider-Man. Because let's face it, like, Doctor Strange did well, Captain Marvel did well, all those Marvel movies in that connected universe did well. So it's pretty evident that Spider-Man was going to do really well. Not only is he a compelling character and all that, and applies to a mass audience, but it's just that association and the ties that's going to do it, So I don't know that it's necessarily due in part to the fact that he's Spider-Man, or it's just the character himself. Black Panther, that was a big deal for a whole, when it came out, for another 6 months after the fact, it was talked about, and boom, Black Panther, big hit, yada yada. I think it's just the Marvel formula, man. It really is. I don't know that it's necessarily character driven.
Sure.
To some extent, there's a percentage there, but I just don't think that it's such an ingredient that it's worth hanging the jacket on it, right?
Well, the thing is, Spider-Man's always been their most popular character, and I think the point, again, that Missile Mage's trying to make here is that it's solid. Like, they're not making a full, like, Captain Marvel video game. They're not making a Captain Marvel TV show. Like, they're not making these things. Like, Spidey's kind of hitting all of these different spots at the same time, and I think it's kind of bringing it back because, like you said, it kind of downward trend a little bit, especially with the movies kind of being like, people still really love and relate to Spider-Man. And I think you're using that, and you'll see that too with Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, when they kind of get her TV series going on. But I think he's stable. The only thing I worry about again is that Sony interference if they just try to pull it back completely. And I think also Into the Spider-Verse coming out, so many people love that movie. It's really honestly a 7.5 out of 10. Everybody don't freak out about it. But it's just the truth. So many people love that movie, and I think that propels and the different Spider-Men and women and all the different Spider people. I think there's just so many things going on for that character right now that to me it doesn't feel as poignant as when those first, like the Raimi trilogy came out. But it's such a solid foundation because, like, if any one of those things were to crumble, there's another place for you to get your Spider-Man fix. Because, like, right now, for, like, Batman, for say, like, if you want some good Batman stuff, like, you got to go, like, back to the animated series or play, like, the Arkham games. There's not a lot of, like, what's happening now. Like, depending on how Robert Pattinson does, there's, like Batman's kind of... And that's weird because Batman is, like, Batman and Spider-Man are, like, the two most popular, besides Superman, popular comic characters of all time. And it's crazy to me to think that only one of them is doing well in all of these facets, and like two of them are kind of like...
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I think he's been so mainstream for so long in that sense that maybe, now he is probably the strongest character on the roster in that regard.
Yeah, but...
So, all right, I see the point.
Yeah. I think, though, his movies are very safe, and that's fine. They're low key and low scale, which is fine, but they don't feel very dire, and that's, again, it's okay. But like, you watch the first Iron Man and there's something to it. Like, I like kind of having a little bit of that edge, and Spidey doesn't really have that right now, and I think it's because they put him so much in the shadow of Tony Stark that I hope that the next Spider-Man film has like next to nothing to do with that, because I feel like that's what these movies are all about. It's like, oh, if he wants to be the next Iron Man, but he's not going to be the next Iron Man, so don't worry about it. I want there to be a little more seriousness sometimes. I like that it's lighthearted.
Movie, yeah, I agree with everything you said, but I will say his most recent movie, for a second there, it seemed pretty damn dire.
Okay, you're totally right.
The glasses thing, I was like, oh my god, what has he done? Like, to be honest, that was pretty catastrophic in my eyes.
For sure. Not that it wasn't a world-ending threat.
Tony Stark's a freaking idiot.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, why would he leave that? Tony Stark, he's just making villains after he's dead, and he's also giving these powerful glasses to a child. Anyway, I just feel like maybe it's because the stakes are different, and when you give Spider-Man the world-ending event that he can try to prevent or whatever, it doesn't feel as impactful to me, because the thing about Spider-Man, again, is he's super relatable. So that's why at the end of the first Spider-Man film, when he has to save either Mary Jane or this like gondola of all these kids who are about to die, and Goblin like drops them both, it's intense. And this is right after this guy like blew up his aunt's house. Like, it's like personal threats. And I think that is where Spidey... like
closer to home, more related.
Yeah, because that's
humanity of it.
That's the threat of it. Because in the Iron Man ones, it's like, yeah, he deals with these threats, but basically those movies were basically to show they're like, yeah, but Tony's still human and he's still got faults. Like, but I want, for Spidey, I want the threat to be like, I'm gonna get like the people you care about the most. Like, that to me is like, because that just seems like more in his wheelhouse, you know? Because with Thor, yeah, it's gonna be somebody who's like, I'm gonna try to destroy the cosmos. Makes perfect sense, right? But with Spidey, I don't need it to be that. I need it to be
more
like,
intimate.
yeah, I need that. That's, to me, that's where it's like, that's why Venom is so scary, or has been in the past, because he's like, it's Eddie Brock, a guy that Peter pissed off, and then Venom, who's trying to get back to Peter. And it's like, we know all your secrets, Spider-Man, and we're gonna like try to kill all the people you love. Like, that kind of threat.
I'm just saying, Marvel, the MCU, Disney, and Sony could do that right if Sony would play ball, bring Venom into the fold.
So I think what they're gonna do now is they probably will in some stretch. So maybe what they'll have is they'll have a symbiote get on Peter, and that will turn out to, that symbiote will leave and turn Carnage into Carnage. Like, it'll get on Cletus Cassidy, and that will make Carnage instead. Because they'll be like, oh, it's the red from his suit, and that's what makes it red. And that's not really how it goes in the comics. But if you have to work around it to have one symbiote who's a villain, who's trying to kill Peter and know everything about him and has his powers, that's one way to do it, maybe. Bring Venom in. I need those. That's why the Sinister Six to me, I'm like, I want 6 people who are like, no, we don't want to take over the world. We don't want to do any of that. We want to kill Spider-Man. That's all we want to do. if we do that, then all of us can do whatever we want. Like, that's what I want to see. I want that so badly. I don't need another threat. But anyway, but yeah,
Okay.
Missile Mage, obviously Spider-Man's still a passion for me. Like, you can't really see it, but it's Spider-Man. I've got a Spider-Man little tin on my wall, and it's such a cool character, and I love that game is so good, and like that Spidey is here and is like not excluded from the MCU. I'm so happy, because it'd be so weird right now if Spider-Man had his own little movies that weren't part. It'd be like
involved, yeah.
You'd be like, what? Like, they're in New York all the time. And they're like, yeah, we saw this kid and like swinging around. It's like a spider. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody who's listening to this, let us know if we're crazy or not. Let us know in the comments. We love these types of questions. But if you do have a question like this one, or a topic, you can send it to our Discord, or just tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast to either of us. You can tweet at our official account, which I run, which is @GoCritical, or you can tweet at me personally. I'm JimmyGood013. And if you want this week, maybe tweet me some funny Spider-Man gifs. I love a good Spider-Man gif. There's some really funny ones from the old cartoons. Yeah, and Joe, if they want to find you, where can they find you?
Tweet me at Lever_627. That's Lever just like Beaver, only with an L.
Excellente, he says. And if you do want to support us, we were kind of talking about this earlier, but we do have a spread shirt if you'd like. If you'd like to spread a shirt over yourself like this, like I've done. And
gorgeous, baby.
Okay, that's enough working out for 1 month. Okay. And then if you guys want, we also stream over on twitch.tv/critical reviews, or we also have a Patreon, which again, thank you to everybody who's still donating over there. You guys are the best, and we really, really do appreciate it. So thank you for doing that. Hashtag for this week's special one, if you made it this far, should be what, Joe? What do you think?
I gotta make Indubitably happen. It's gonna happen.
We didn't do that last time?
We did it last time, but I think we need to do it again. It's gotta happen.
Hashtag Indubitably Part 2.
Part 2. That's like part only DEUX. I like it.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that. I was like,
I like that.
I know my audience. I love them so much. Yeah. So thank you guys so much, Ryan. I'm excited to see that. But anybody can do that, not just Ryan. So if you're listening to the show and you want to let us know you made it to this point in the show, or leave it in the comments, because we'd love to get. I want some more conversations going. I want people to really who are listening to the show all the time. Please leave us a comment what you like, what you don't like about us in the show, and what you'd like to talk about next time, because I don't know, I'm always up for, even if it's something completely just like something we are not even talking about. Like Terminator. I don't know if they're making any more of those. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I can't even believe it.
I will say this though, when I was playing Outer Worlds the other day and I had a flamethrower, I'd run into a place and start like chanting the music from Terminator, which is like dun 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 dun, and I like run in with the flamethrower. I was like, I'm a Terminator now, which I don't think Terminators are all about flamethrowers, but
I'd be Bach.
I'll be back. Joe, as always, my dear friend, thank you for being on. Always a pleasure to have you.
Indubitably.
Yes. Well, thank you everybody for watching. And
great.
What was that?
Oh, I said indubitably, and I said it's been great.
It's been great. It's been great, laddie. It's been excellent. Everybody, thank you for listening and watching and putting up with our crazy shenanigans. And until next time, just remember to do this: to adapt and overcome. There we go.
Indubitably.
Indubitably. I'm putting this on the end, baby. Mwah.